Thank you, everybody, and welcome to this evening's meeting of Rushcliffe Borough Council's Cabinet. Just to remind everybody that the Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, under the Local Authorities Regulations 2012, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the control of the Council. Cabinet will be considering an exempt item number 10, which is a land disposal update. And so for that meeting, the public will be excluded and the YouTube live streaming will be switched off. Right, okay, thank you very much indeed. So let's move to item number 1. Which is apologies for absence. I think we are all here as far as I can see. So item 2, any declarations of interest, please? None. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of June. May I sign those as a true and correct record? All in favour? Thank you very much. So we move to item 4, citizens' questions. I don't believe there are any, Chief Executive. No. So item 5 is opposition group leaders' questions. We have a question from Councillor Ted Birch. Unfortunately, I believe he is unable to attend through illness, so we wish him well and hope he recovers soon. So in his absence, I will read out his question, which is a question for Councillor Verdi, the finance portfolio. And the question is, how much money does Rushcliffe Borough Council currently have in cash reserves and investments? I invite Councillor Verdi to respond.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Birch, for the question. Before I answer the question, I think it's important to understand that the reserves we hold are to cover future risks and opportunities, not least uncertainty in relation to future local government finances, cost of living impact, changes in legislation to do with the environment, climate change, future capital spend on property and vehicles, and so on. So our MTFS is something that brings together the revenue and capital pressures, funding risks and use of these reserves. And I'm sure Councillor Birch, having attended the governance group recently, has had visibility of our investment position at the 31st of March. But just a couple of highlights. It should be noted that the Council does hold a healthy balance of reserves. However, a significant amount of those reserves, some over 60%, is actually held by the Council as trustees, which can only be released pending a drawdown by the appropriate bodies in relation to Section 106. In addition, our earmark reserves, and this is very important to understand, our overall balance of reserves is a combination of those funds we hold as trustees, and also earmark reserves, which are there for committed expenditure. For example, just some examples, an investment reserve, which allows for future investment and growth plans. We have, for example, regeneration community projects, some 1.8 million allocated for that. Our investment property portfolio, 426,000. We also have corporate reserves, such as the Organisational Stabilisation Reserve at 3.99 million. We have the Development Corporation, which Cabinet is aware of, some 330,000. Planning appeals, which we may have to cover, are part of those corporate reserves. And one other, I think, very important point to note is that our corporate reserves also include an exceptional collection fund reserve. Now, this was created due to government business rates relief linked to COVID. So these were grants received in advance to smooth over the next 3 years in terms of the deficit position as a result of not receiving the business rates income due to the relief. And then finally, we have operating reserves, for example, maintenance of our leisure centres and planning. And The final component, in addition to those earmarked reserves and the Section 106, is working capital. We need to pay salaries, we have operating expenditure, and we have an amount which is allocated there. So in conclusion, Chairman, I think it is critical that the Council needs to be properly insulated against these future revenue and capital demands, hence the need to ensure we have sufficient levels of reserves, as well as having the ability to use the reserves to support projects in the future. And those balances need to be understood in that context, and that is very important. But I hope that answers the question in terms of the purpose of the reserve, the level of the balances, and how that's broken down. And we do have our annual statement as of the 31st of March, which has those components broken down in there. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether there'll be a supplementary or not, but I would just ask you, which I think I know the answer, if you'd agree that that does demonstrate that the council finances are run in a very prudent and efficient way.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Let's. I'll now switch the microphone on and try again. Let's move on to item 6, which is the financial outturn. And back to Councillor Verdi, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Caught me by surprise there. I was thought I might have a break between the next item, but it is indeed myself. So thank you very much. So this is the financial year-end outturn for 22-23, and it follows on from previous reporting from my predecessor, Councillor Gordon Moore. And I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank him and record our appreciation for the excellent work he has undertaken whilst in Cabinet. I aim, of course, to continue with this work, working alongside Peter and his team, and of course our senior officers and Cabinet, as well as all councillors. The report is pretty comprehensive, as Cabinet has seen. There are a number of key points in the year-end position, and I'll try and highlight some of those. The report does make references to previously discussed content, so I'm not going to repeat that other than to highlight some of the key points, as I said, issues for us this evening. Overall, it's a positive report, given the financial challenges that beset not only this council, but the country as a whole, with the cost of living crisis and following a challenging number of years navigating the impacts of COVID. However, unlike many councils, we have retained positive budget efficiencies for both revenue and capital. There are good reasons for this, and I'll come on to these in this report. In terms of revenue, there is an efficiency position of just over £2 million noted in the report. This is required for service demand in the current year, in 23-24, and also potentially to meet other risks, and therefore appropriation to earmark reserves are recommended, which is what I've just referred to in my response to the question earlier. Tables 1 and 2 at pages 8 of the report and 9 are where the budget variances are for the revenue. There is 1.5 million at the bottom of table 1 in additional funding, largely due to additional business rates around £1 million. And the remainder grant income, 0.58 million, e.g. for the Ukrainian homes funding that and other grants that we administer, including energy payments. Table 2 focuses on other service-related variances with a 0.57 net variance, and additional planning income of 0.28 million, and also investment interest of 0.46 million pounds, the latter as a result of rising interest rates. So these are the sort of notable variances within the report. Appendix C goes on at page 31 and shows where the carry forwards are required for the appropriation to reserves that I referred to earlier on, and where the 2 million budget efficiencies are required. Regarding capital of the £21 million budget, there is a budget underspend of 5.59 million. And this is largely due to delays in the opening of what are our excellent facilities in the Bingham Leisure Centre and the crematorium. Detailed commentary on the capital variances is contained at Appendix C on page 23. And finally, Appendix D highlights the position on special expenses with a commentary on 4.2 with a minor deficit position, some 18,000. In summary, Chairman, the financial impact of inflation has, through prudent budgeting, been maintained within resources without the need for a draw on our reserves. And inflation is expected to continue on a downwards trend and reduce this year. However, we can't be complacent. There are still areas of risk to both council expenditure and to income receipts as household income contracts. Clearly, the council must be conscious of the need to balance the budget with supporting residents during this difficult time. And the comprehensive spending review and both the business rates revaluation and the fairer funding reviews, which have been delayed recently a number of times, and not due to take place probably until 24-25, adds further uncertainty and pressure and making financial planning even more challenging for us. In conclusion, it's critical that the council needs to be properly insulated against such risk, hence the need to ensure it has a sufficient level of reserves, which we've talked about earlier, as well as having the ability to use reserves to support projects where there is an upside risk or there is a change in our strategic direction. So the council continues to ensure it is financially resilient at this most difficult time, and of course, I will be working with the team to ensure our financial management continues to be robust in meeting these challenges. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Verdi. And really, yes, as per the previous question, I think you are demonstrating, and the report is demonstrating, that we do look after the taxpayers' money on their behalf in the council extremely well, and manage to provide excellent services within the confines of the finances that we are able to allocate. And it's by that prudent financial management, which know that we all appreciate all the officers' efforts very much, because that does really look after the taxpayers' money on everybody's behalf. So thank you for that. You are moving the 4 recommendations, I assume.
Yes, would you like me to go through those, Chairman?
Well, I'm assuming they're A, B, C and D on page.
They are, absolutely, yes.
Great. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Wheeler?
Yeah, I second that, Chairman. I think Councillor Verdi did a comprehensive job explaining the report. I think what I just want to say, what it shows is the need to have the prudent financial management we have, because the effect we had on interest rates and with inflation, the state some other council finances are in because of that, with the heavy borrowing they've had to do to meet their agenda. The fact that we've not had to do that through the work we've done. We just see a council across the water today with the huge shortfall they've got in their budget for this year and the challenges they must be having, difficult decisions to make. In fact, we don't have to do that because of the position we're in. We can keep the council taxes the lowest in Nottinghamshire. We can invest, as we have done the last year, tens of millions of pounds in facilities for our residents, and still have the flexibility of our finances, so that when there are challenges like they have done, that we can meet those. So again, just want to put on record thanks to the office team and obviously to Councillor Moore and Councillor Verdi for what they've done. And I think, like I say, it just shows the decisions made by this council over the years are the right ones, and hopefully we continue to do that going forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that. Any other comments or questions? I think it's straightforward. So it has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Moving straight on to item 7 on page 33 in relation to low carbon and sustainable design. And I'll ask Councillor Upton, please, to introduce that.
Thank you, Chairman. This report is about a supplementary planning document concerning low carbon and sustainable design. Its purpose really is to provide guidance on how low carbon and sustainable design and construction can be considered to signpost various people to best practice and to establish a checklist, if you like, for those people that are making planning applications, something they can run through to check that they've considered these items. The Nottinghamshire councils have jointly prepared the basic framework or template, and this council has adapted it in small measure for Rushcliffe's particular local circumstances. It includes various guidance, as I say, on, say, the layout of developments and their orientation to maximise energy from the sun, for instance, and minimising energy use through various installations and glazing options and improved ventilation, ground source, heat pumps and the like. So a useful guide and checklist. It's been scrutinised and approved by the cross-party local development forum group quite recently, and it's also been to wide public consultation. And if we adopt it, we'll provide more guidance for local plan part 1, which we have clauses in there about climate change and also the design and enhancing of the local identity policies. So that's it in a nutshell, Chairman, and I therefore move the recommendations listed in clause 2 on page 1 of the report. Whether you'd like me to read them or not, I don't know.
Well, we'll take them as read, as listed on
Essentially what I've just summarised, really.
page 33. Yeah. Seconder for that, Councillor Inglis.
Thank you. So this document goes a long way to encourage and inspire planning guidance for low carbon sustainable design and construction. Something we can lead on by a good example in the council's recent major projects with the Bingham Marina, the crematorium and the forthcoming eco-housing at Abbey Park. So this Rushcliffe adapted joint council guidance recognises that construction contributes significantly to CO2 emissions, especially in the energy use, material consumption and waste, with a negative effect on global warming. As a world, this needs addressing, and this is doing just that at a local level. It will help to achieve the essential objective in reducing our carbon emissions to net zero by 2030. The policy envelops developers and residents further into that goal and to the commitment of local plan part 1 for policies 2 and 10 for climate change and design. So we must adopt this policy. There are no negative reasons why we should not, and I'm confident it will make a difference. So I'm more than happy to second and endorse the comments made by Councillor Upton in recommending parts A, B and C of part 9 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. This is an immensely important document because of all the reasons that Councillor Upton has stated, the various different ways of helping the environment and reducing carbon emissions, but also then helping with energy saving and in every way reducing our impact on the environment. So this really is very important, and we must continue to do all we can to encourage carbon reduction and reduction of energy usage wherever possible as well. And not only to lead by example with our own properties, the council properties, but then to encourage all our residents, householders and business owners to employ whatever means they can to contribute to carbon reduction as well. So this document will provide that extra encouraging guidance. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I'm not sure who the author of the document was, but I just would like to congratulate them on making it such an accessible document. I think it's actually really quite readable. I don't know if we produced it here or contributed to it, but actually it's very easy to follow. It's a very clear guide, and I can see it being put to practical use, which you can't say about all of the guidance that's associated with planning. So I think it's no offence here. So I think it's a great document, really accessible and very useful. So congratulations to the team that drafted it. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed for that. Any other questions or comments? Don't think so. In which case, It has been moved and seconded. So all those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. On to item 8, which is Shaw Street Cemetery in Ruddington. And Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, Shaw Street Cemetery this is largely a procedural item, very short, to essentially rectify what is a small administrative oversight. Shaw Street Cemetery is in Ruddington. It's been the responsibility of the borough since it was transferred in 1974, and we have managed it since then as a closed cemetery. No ashes have been interred, not interned, as it says in the report, but interred since the mid-80s. And we've been made aware, looking back through the records, that no formal closure of the cemetery was undertaken. The background to the decision is set out in paragraphs 4.2 to 4.7, and essentially the requirement is that we agree that the cemetery is full or otherwise impractical for use. And as it sets out in paragraph 4.4, the formalities that we're required to do to achieve this are minimal. The site was in fact assessed as nearly full when it was originally transferred to us in 1974, and the plots on the site are extremely difficult to identify, broken headstones and so on, and no plots have been sold since that transfer date back in 1974. It is theoretically possible that someone could come forward with a valid grant of burial for that site, and it could possibly be accommodated if that did happen. But as the report suggests, this is becoming less and less likely with the passage of time. And there is also an alternative and active cemetery on the adjoining Vicarage Road. So essentially, I'm asking Cabinet to approve formally the closure of the cemetery as set out in paragraph 3 of the paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Upton?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm pleased to second this report, which, as Councillor Brennan says, is essentially a tidying up of the administration process for this long closed cemetery. There's much else to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that all looks pretty straightforward. So let's move straight to the vote. And all those in favour, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. I'll move on to item 9. And I will move that under Regulation 21(1)(b) of the Local Authorities Regulations 2000, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. The grounds for those being that it's likely that confidential financial information may be disclosed. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Therefore, we'll pause just while we ensure the live streaming is switched off. Thank you to everybody watching.